Oh, hello, how are you? John's not here right now, but I'll be happy to show you around my friend's house. He built this in 1870, and it's a tribute to him and to his wife. Come on in. This is where I like to come in the morning when I stay here. This is where I smoke. I always ask people if they mind if I smoke. Not that I'm a slave to the habit, you understand. I've quit 1,000 times. But I won't smoke in front of you today. I believe there's some commandment against it. But this is the withdrawing room. And after the meal here, then these doors close and the ladies would come in here and the gentlemen in the room across. And the food here, it makes me cry just to think about it. John spared no expense on these floors, and of course these fireplaces are marble. John was an attorney here. Even shortly after I left town, he became an attorney. In those days, you didn't go to school for it, but you would read law with some other attorney. Many memories right here. Well, when I visited here, they didn't have these rooms designated with some sort of name, but I think they all have a little bit of a character to them. And I told them I thought this room right here reminded me of my contemporary Arthur Conan Doyle. It has kind of a Sherlock Holmes feel to it. And this bed, this reminds me of the bed that Livy and I bought in Italy, brought back, but ours had a little, on each of the posts, it has a cherub. And my girls used to take that off and play with it like a baby doll. Now this has a little ante-room here, and you can go into the study here, and nice room here. Very nice. This is one of the only flying staircases in Hannibal. John built this as an Italianate Victorian. And he told me that the architect is the same one that designed the governor's palace. Now, this is the study here. After the meal, the women would go over here and the men come in here to smoke. John always had some pretensions to aristocracy. The rest of us were just plain old Missouri boys, but John said, my name is Robards. So we let him have his little idiosyncrasies, but somewhere along the line he brought in a French desk here. Has some built-ins here. And this is where they would conduct their business. In fact, there's some little cubby holes here. They probably don't want me going through their things, but I've always been one to poke around into other people's business. We can go on upstairs and I'll show you where I stayed. This room here reminds me of another writer from New England, Emily Dickinson. It's very soothing in here, kind of private. And I remember one of her poems, she said, "I'm a nobody, who are you? Are you a nobody too?" I've always called this the Emily Dickinson. And have a nice view of the backyard here. And some big walnut trees back there. All right, this room right here, this is on the second floor here. This reminds me of Lewis Carroll. Of course, Mr. Carroll, most famous for writing a book about a little girl called Alice. Alice in Wonderland. And this kind of reminds me of that. One of his poems I like quite a bit because it's called Nonsense Poem. It goes like this. "'Twas brillig and the slithy toves. Did gyre and gimble in the wave, all mincy were the borough groves of Momrath's outgrabe." Isn't that wonderful? This room is very light, kind of airy, and looks down on 6th Street out here. Nice view from all these windows. You can see the old federal building right down here. I believe that was built in 1884, I believe it was. Many fireplaces in this old house. And of course, that was the way to heat everything in the early days. And this room here is where I stayed. I enjoyed my time here very much. I had to boot out John's little girl that this was her room, but I stayed here and very comfortable. You know, I always come back to Hannibal. I've traveled all over the world. I've seen all the foreign countries I care to see except heaven and hell. But I always come back to Hannibal because this is where everything started. And so this gave me a kind of a bird's eye view of the old town that meant so much to me and produced things like the Adventures of Tom Sawyer and the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. This was a bedroom also when I was here. Now it's kind of a suite of 2 rooms here that kind of go together. One more flight up and I'll show you one of my favorite parts of the house. The Italianate Victorians all of them had a metal roof, and so there's an area under that where there's servant quarters, and then there's a little library here. That's pretty wonderful. Nice quiet place to do some reading. And if I lived here, this is where I'd come to write, up here in Belvedere. You can see all of Hannibal from these windows up here, and it's a wonderful place to watch the 4th of July fireworks. That was Mr. Lamb's house over there. He was an attorney. And one day when I was a boy, I went to him, and I know you'll find this hard to believe, but I lied. I said, I'm a responsible young man. Would you let me borrow one of your books? I'm sure to bring it back. And he let me borrow the complete works of William Shakespeare. Not too many books in town in those days.